Now, there are fears that the Chinese are taking over business in Kenya and pushing out local businessmen and women. And forget the standard gauge railway matter. There are Chinese companies building houses, water pans, and even pit latrines in informal settlements. All jobs that could have been done by local companies. And as KTN's Catherine Omontho reports, this new Oriental wave has some legislators really worried.
As any fast economy, Kenya and Africa at large has attracted the attention of economic giants like China. But the rush with which Kenya is handing over nearly every contract in town to Chinese contractors has raised eyebrows. Questions are being asked as to why local contractors are not getting even minor contracts they are more than capable of handling.
Having outmuscled other foreign companies in big contracts, now they're coming down to the smaller projects. To an extent, now they're also pushing out small and medium size Kenyan companies.
The Kenyan government recently adjusted its foreign policy that now dictates that it will do business with friends of Kenya. So China, a state that has a strict non-interference policy, is more than willing to be Kenya's new best friend. But according to economist Kwame Owino, foreign policy has little to do with the way Kenya is doing business nowadays, but it has more to do with Kenya's relation with Chinese companies. Chinese companies tend to give cheaper offers to the willing buyer.
What they do is through negative, what we will call through negative competition, and that for them they don't pay what's called the corporate tax that the Kenyan businessman paid, which is 30% of any profits you make. So what they do at any contract, they will quote less than 30% of what a medium or a small size Kenyan company will quote.
Chinese companies also have a way of referring the willing buyer to a company that can do feasibility tests, another that can provide cheap labor, and another entity that can provide funding. Incidentally, all these pseudo companies will most likely be Chinese. So you have a company that is servicing all your needs for a bargain.
The Jubilee government to dig deeper and find out whether these Chinese companies are established in their country called China.
Even if local companies try to give the best price, there are allegations that Chinese companies give incentives to ensure that they get the tender.
People are going for tenders and then they're given cuts to give these tenders.
The IMF has blacklisted 2 giant Chinese companies for business improprieties, yet those 2 companies we cannot name for legal reasons are doing big projects in Kenya today. But kickbacks aside, some of these companies have a history of being lax, doing substandard jobs that end up being cheap to construct but expensive to maintain.
You might end up dealing with people who are hawks, people who are not real. People are coming to Kenya to swindle the Kenyan government.
A section of leaders now want the government to regulate its business with Chinese companies. They warn that letting Chinese companies flood into Kenya could water down set rules and regulations set out in the Constitution. Catherine Omontho, KTN.